There we go. All right, let me officially welcome you all to our webinar about the upcoming Skills for Success program this summer 2025. We do have dates and we do have what is almost certainly our location, although these contracts get built in the new year. But we were at Boston University last year. We had a great time. They loved us. We loved them. It was a great spot for us. And so we'll almost certainly be back there this year. We have one other option we're exploring, but we do have dates. We might even introduce a fourth date because it looks like we're getting a lot of applicants. So we might have an early August as well. This should all be on the website. But my goal today is to get everyone to learn primarily about how learning happens at the Skills for Success program. Because it's pretty unique, it's pretty different. That's probably why you're here, you know that. And so I want to take the opportunity to sort of talk through some of the color around it. We'll have some Q&A at the end, and we'll have the opportunity for some of our facilitators from last year and next year to speak. So you see George right now. George, one of the great things about working at Futures Forge is when we're not on a teaching cycle, we're pretty flexible about location. So I've worked from Croatia for a bit. George is working from the Pacific, like an island in the Pacific right now, which is neat. So it's evening his time. And so we're welcoming, just like we did last year, we're welcoming folks from all over the world just for this call. So this is what I'll be walking through. All of this is on the website. I'm just here to add color. And so I'm going to be brief about it. There may be some details that seem like they're missing. And if that's the case, it is likely that I'm intentionally keeping them out so that the folks who have read the website aren't getting a lot of redundancy. And if you want to learn more after this, the website's the place for you. So first I want to introduce myself and Nat, the founders, and then I'll introduce George and Alisa, two of our senior facilitators. So I'm the guy on the right. That's me shaking Zabek's hand. Zabek had a really good session just then where he was sitting giving me some constructive feedback, which is always really intimidating. It's always really scary to give, like, you're 17 and the founder of the program says, like, hey, what constructive feedback do you have for me? He did it live in front of everyone. That's what everyone's doing there. And then Nat is like making one of his kind of magical points. You see James is turned towards him. Everyone, like, whenever Nat speaks, everyone's like, so. And so those are us at Skills for Success last year. But one of the big reasons that people joined us last year for our inaugural year was Nat's background and my background. So I'll touch on these briefly. So Nat on the left, he was the founder and CEO of a company called Stroud. It was a management and operations consulting firm, recruits only Ivy League plus students. 3% of applicants get in. So these are like super smarty pants who then get sent around the country to fix factories. Nat's the guy who led that. The most important thing to get right, other than the methodology, is training and development of young talent. Because folks come out of an Ivy League school. I went to MIT. I joined Stroud. Come out of MIT, pretty smart, good at engineering, not ready to go to a factory at age 23 and make it happen, unless you get developed very quickly in a certain set of attributes and skills, right? And that was something Stroud was excellent at. So 23-year-olds would show up, bunch of 50-year-old factory VPs that we'd work with that would respect us because we knew how to operate with them and we knew how to help them. And we would quickly drive results in their plant. And so the difference between like a normal Ivy League grad and being able to do that was Stroud's development methodology. We're adopting most of that into Skills for Success, right? At a smaller scale, at a different scale, but the same methodology. So Nat did that. That's the foundation of a lot of his success. You see he's an Oxford grad. That was where he went to undergrad, and Cambridge afterward for his master's. Nat has skied to the South Pole. That's one of the things he wanted included. You see these books in the middle? Nat and I worked on these together. So Nat is he's one of the big names in technical problem solving due to what he developed at Stroud. I helped him write the book because I'm a decent writer from my background. So I was his ghost. This book it's on political polarization in the United States. We wrote this 10 years ago. I know we're about to get to election. I don't want to talk about politics, but we loved writing this book. So he and I co-authored that. You see here, Stroud shows up on my resume. So it was my first job out of school, massively foundational for me. I then went and started much later, started a tech company called Prod Perfect. We grew to 60, we raised 25 million before exiting. I had a few small tech startups along the way. I got brought in for a bike helmet company that was trying to change how that happened for bike share. This is a little company that started on my own. I wrote my own book called How to Crush College, based on my own background at MIT, where I don't even have MIT's logo on here, but I graduated MIT in 4 years with nearly 2 bachelor's degrees and a master's degree, and this was sort of like my secrets on how to do that. Cover a little bit of that in Skills for Success, and then I like building costumes and such. So that's me as Captain America in a costume that I built. And so the reason we started Futures Forge is because we noticed, I mean, just from our recruiting at Stroud, my recruiting at Prod Perfect, et cetera, that grads from Ivy League plus schools can't perform when they graduate. And we think this is silly, right? And it's sort of actually widely accepted among employers that, well, of course the grads show up a little bit clueless, and then you have to teach them how to not just do their job, but really perform. And one thing Nat and I would ask, because this is kind of who we are, we'd go, well, isn't that silly? Like, you go to get a mechanical engineering degree at MIT for 4 years, someone's paying $300,000, right? Right. If you're on financial aid, it's not you, but someone's paying it. 4 years, and you're not able to show up and do your job as excellently as a mechanical engineer. You should already be able to be the best mechanical engineer on the planet, graduating MIT with that. But the performance skills are missing, and we'll talk through what some of those are. But we think this is silly, and so we want to close that gap because the science shows that performance makes all the difference in when you have like 2 grads show up who are both pretty smart. These skills make all the difference in who makes money, who creates breakthroughs, who gets good performance ratings, who gets promoted, who starts companies and wins. This stuff is well developed. There's a lot on our science page about that, so I won't get too into it. I want to get briefly, before getting into more detail, I want to talk briefly about what some of our students have to say, and then I want George and then Alisa to share their favorite parts about student growth from this last summer, from Skills for Success 2024. So this is Julie from the United States. There's her quote. I'm not going to read them out loud. You guys can read them. Giancarlo, excuse me, from Nicaragua. Love his quote. And this guy was definitely an overachiever. Olivia, she's from the United States, but attends a school in the United Kingdom. And I like her quote in particular because it really captures a key part of our philosophy, which is that ultimately you develop yourself. If you want to get grittier, if you want to become more adaptable, a better problem solver, the responsibility is on your shoulders. There is a lot about our system that if you apply yourself to it, you will grow. But it is not something that you can get passively. This cannot be passively developed. This is actively developed. And our hope is, and what we're looking to see in these students as they continue to grow, we're looking to continue to measure, is that we want their rate of growth and their rate of learning after their time at Futures Forge to be significantly higher than someone who did not come. So it's not just you learn a lot in 2 weeks and then you continue on the same trajectory. That would not be a great use of 2 weeks. Well, it'd be a good use of 2 weeks, but it's not what we want to do. We want people to come out and we want them to continue to change themselves because they learned how to do it. And most importantly, that they can. Finally, I'm going to be sharing this slide deck. These are all actually on the website, but I'm not going to play them here. But there are some great videos of a few of our students who decided to give a verbal testimonial. Ryan, Ariana, and Beta. Beta is from Turkey. We actually had, I somehow only figured this out a few weeks ago. We actually had students from all 6 populated continents on the planet last summer, which I'm really excited about. So about 30% of our students are overseas.
I'm Bada Toprak. I'm from Istanbul.
No, let's move on. There we go. All right. So as you can see, those videos work, and when you get online, you will see them. Before I talk about the science a little bit, George, do you want to share what was your favorite moment of growth for your students as a coach and a facilitator this last summer?
Yeah, of course. I think that one of the coolest parts about the Futures Forge experience is that the students turn up thinking that they're going to learn a bunch about just skills and attributes, but they leave having a better idea of what they want to pursue in the future. A big thing that young people kind of struggle with is knowing what motivates them and knowing the direction and path that they want to take for their future. And this helps build the general background of what they're going to need, but most importantly, helps them understand what serves them best and what brings them joy to pursue. So you watch people come in and then you watch students get excited about the future and what it is that's going to challenge them and what motivates them really. And it's super cool to have those conversations and those coaching moments where some student has a breakthrough and they realize that they love a certain aspect of problem solving or critical thinking, and they realize that's the path that they want to pursue and learn more about. So it's super cool watching the progress that those students make.
Thank you, George. Alisa.
Yeah, of course, I totally agree with George. But I think for me, the most interesting part was seeing the growth of students, because like comparing them as a coach from where they come, like during the first day of the program, and comparing them to people they became in the end of the program is like so crazy, because there is such a big growth in their self-understanding, in their ability to work in the team and listen to each other, in their ability to express their thoughts and communicate, as well as like all of the other skills. Like I'm not going to read the whole list because the growth is visible in all of them. And probably my best memory and like best experience as a coach is just being able to help them to grow in all of these fields, as well as just watch them becoming better and better with every day and every challenge. So definitely, like, this is why I love this program so much, is because we are actually given the opportunity for students to grow and become better selves that unfortunately is kind of ignored in school, in absolute like mature environments, I would say. So yeah.
So I didn't introduce George and Alisa. George is a graduate of University of Exeter in the United Kingdom. Alisa is at MIT now, and if you end up going to our Schools for Success 2024 page, which is summer-2024 as a URL slug, you'll see the 6 facilitators we had last year. Next year, we're going to do the same. We're going to do the same thing, bigger, obviously. So we'll have Matt and I will be there as our leads. Each section is going to have its own lead, who is going to be a full-time teacher that we get out of the school system, someone who's passionate about changing it, and then the same Ivy Plus group of university students that are joining us for the summer as our like frontline coach group. And those frontline coaches they're running the modules, they're facilitating the modules, they're answering questions, they're like asking Socratic questions of the students as things are going, and then providing feedback and coaching between the challenges. And you're probably curious about the challenges. You've seen this. If you go to the science page, you learn a lot more about this. This is what the science says matters, and so this is what we focus on in our curriculum. And one of the things that you saw or you heard Alisa and George mention some of these key points where students are better able to motivate themselves coming out because they have a better understanding of what they want to do and why. I talked about, wanting to grow past, past the 2-week course by knowing how to do so, both what you need to work on and how to do it. And one of the things that seems to resonate a lot is this sense that like students now begin to develop this sense that they can pursue challenges that they don't know anything about them ahead of time. They've not been well set up by a teacher or someone for it. One of the challenges we work on is a product market fit challenge. And when we started that, most students were like, I don't know what product market fit is. We're like, great. By the end of this, you will be good at, by the end of today, you will be good at understanding it and improving it in a startup. And that was true. And so students come out with this ability and this confidence to figure out how to figure out novel challenges that they've never seen before. And the reason we're able to do that is our system. So each day we have a challenge that is like the center of what we're working on. I'll go through what a few of those are. I can't draw circles, I'm sorry. And everything centers around that. We have an introduction to it. Students direct themselves with learning. So they're learning about what the heck is product market fit, what's going on. Facilitators are guiding them. And then they take on the challenge. Someone's going to win. You know, if there's a group of 8 teams, someone will be declared the winner through some process that we have. And then everyone comes out thinking about what went well, what could we do better. They're going to get feedback from their peers, from their peers outside their team, from their own team, from their coaches, often from me, and then integrate that feedback and reflect on it in one-on-one coaching periods about like, hey, what did we learn? What are we going to do differently next time? And this allows rapid iteration, right? We find what are the 1 or 2 things we're going to do differently next time. Let's try them, and then we're going to evaluate again the next day. And this is what I think school should be. I'm not going to grind that axe today, but I'm teaching in the way that has worked well for me and for the, probably 100 employees that I've worked with before, and for the, couple hundred employees that I've worked with that before. And I really enjoy it. So what happens here are these aha moments from like all sorts of different angles, because you take on something you've never seen before, and either you have a breakthrough around, wow, I was able to figure this out, our team was able to figure this out, or you see what someone else did and you go, oh my gosh, that was possible. Right. That was possible. And it was right in front of us. And like, you start breaking through this mindset that like in school, things have to be handed to you. A good example is this is Maria. And during a challenge to figure out how to graduate from MIT in 3 years, she actually called, she said, why don't we just call the MIT course registrar and ask them for their advice, right? And ask them to answer a few of our questions. And they did. And the registrar was happy to do it. And when their team presented that, all the other teams were like, holy smokes, we could have done that, right? And so these breakthroughs occur where what's possible right now and what's possible for, how you can take on a challenge and how you can learn outside of the constraints someone draws for you become increasingly clear. These aha moments happen in feedback. These aha moments happen in watching what other teams did. And we're packed full of these, and it's why we need journaling at the end of the day as part of the growth process. Otherwise, you just won't be able to ingest it all. In addition to the challenges that we mentioned, there are quick skills workshops. So George talked about the importance of students being motivated and learning what they want to do. We have an Ikigai workshop, which is about finding your purpose. We have workshops on developing grit, on developing adaptability, on developing your problem solving very directly before applying it in some challenges. And so these are foundational to actually not just like showing up and doing stuff. You're also learning, okay, here's how I would apply some of these specific skills and attributes to the challenges as we come. I think for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through all of this. People are very interested in what a day looks like. The short version is like, we wake up, we get breakfast, and we are like into the evening. We're working on prep for the next day. Facilitators are holding office hours, so people are coming in seeking input, guidance, and coaching from them. The challenge runs throughout the day, including presentations about the challenge. At the end of a challenge, we'll always have a presentation by every team about here's what you did and why. And the presentation is the locus of team and peer feedback, right? You present it, you summarize what you did, and then you're able to get feedback on it. But it's a packed day, nearly every day. So I'm definitely not going to go into this, but of the 13-day schedule we had last year, 1 day was free time. Everything else was, if it's not green, it's not free time. Or if it's not green or white. This is where you get downtime after dinner, but people are still doing prep for other stuff there. The blue are challenges, the red are these skills workshops. It's a packed schedule. It's highly intense. The families who don't receive financial aid are paying a lot for this, and we want to provide value for value in every moment the students are here. So what I'll do is I'll briefly talk through 2 of the 10 projects that we run, and then I believe it will be just logistics and then questions. So So the opening challenge we had last year, it's going to be different this year. So I don't mind giving a little bit of away, but it was, you've got a roller coaster where it was the first thing people did, right? You're building a roller coaster. A lot of students like, aha, I've seen this before. Our goal is to keep the marble on the roller coaster as long as possible and have it drop in a cup. And at some point students said, where are our materials? And we said, oh yeah, I forgot, here's $40. So they got cash and I just walked away. And after like half a second of, wait a minute, what's going on? Students like, oh man, we got to find, we got to think about where we're going to source these materials. They ended up going out to like Ace Hardware or Home Depot. And the reason for that was that we want to crack open the aperture of responsibility and, and possibility in these challenges, right? When the teacher gives students like a set of materials, a limited set of materials, massively constraining to what learning is possible. And it sets a tone that I, the teacher, am the expert. I know what's best. If you like, and me giving you these materials, I have some idea of what the optimal thing is, and you're supposed to build what I want, right? Whereas I don't know what the optimal roller coaster would have looked like. I didn't have to think about it. Right. Because and this is what work is like in the real world. Like a good manager hasn't already figured out the problem when they get a team to work on the problem. The manager's job is to set them up for success, make sure they have the resources they need, the time they need, the feedback. But if I've already figured out the problem, I should not be assigning it to a team. So this helps students start to understand like, aha, in the work world, things are very, very different from the school world. And we might have this like, tremendous responsibility in what we do. And, they had a lot of fun. There's also another one of the many challenges sort of on the other end of the spectrum. It's very business. It's very hardcore. It was a startup crisis. So it's a case study. You might think it looks a little bit like a McKinsey, strategy case study, but it's much wider. And in this case, a startup was having a product market fit problem and was going to tank. And so the students had to like do a lot of research, a lot of like asking questions of the game master, who was me, about like, hey, can I have data? Can we get data on this? Can we run a test with some limited resources, funds, and time to see what the market would say, to this? And they just, ask questions of sort of the world by asking me, again, facilitators guiding them, and they have to take this data in and analyze it. To decide what are we going to present to the board of directors of this company. And so you can see this is the board of directors right here. It's us, the facilitators. So we like put on the hat. I remember Rory literally put on a hat as the CEO of this company. And they presented to the board of directors how they're going to save the company. And they got feedback from the board of directors. And we declared a winner. It was really, really powerful. And there's sort of everything in between. This is not all like strategy. This is not all for like the business majors. But we want everyone to be able to see kind of the full spectrum of what working in the real world looks like. I'll touch briefly on coaching. I've already mentioned it. But after the challenges, we have like team feedback. So this is where we see some team feedback occurring, and then we have one-on-one coaching after that. For identifying what is to learn and then integrating what we're learning. So you see, it's still bright out. This is not all just happening at night. It happens in the afternoon before dinner. And for a lot of students, it was their favorite part of the experience, because it's where they really got someone for the first time being willing to say like, hey, this is fine. This is what, we've talked for the last few days about the thing you need to work on. Here's how you did on that. Here's what I want to see next. Like very direct, very no nonsense, not criticism, right? Because we don't need anything from you. We just want you to learn, but very direct coaching day by day over the same skill. And it allows that skill to, that skill that they need to work on to ramp up tremendously, the way that Alisa pointed out. So let's get to logistics. Oh yeah, here we go. I did put you guys up. So this was the group last year. You see a few familiar faces here, and so we make sure that so this is your facilitation team. We all live on campus with you, including me, including Nat. So we live on campus. We're the counselors as well, but we give students a lot of freedom about how to use their free time. We do have check-ins, obviously, throughout the day. But the key point is that if something goes wrong, they know how to find us, and they know how to get help. And if someone wanders away, we're going to find out pretty quickly. But we didn't have that problem last year. Folks who want to apply, you need to test in the top 20% of a cognitive ability test of some sort. Classic one is the SAT or ACT. PSAT is pretty common given the age group that we have. If you haven't taken one of those, you can take the Ravens Progressive Matrices. So go ahead and apply anyway. George and I will help administer the Ravens Progressive Matrices. I really like this as a cognitive ability test because it has no words. And so students from, our overseas students will often take this if their verbal section wasn't very good, and they'll take this, and we'll always take the highest score that you send us to test in that top 20%. And then we'll have interviews, a take-home project, and then each month we give out rolling offers. So if you get an offer, you've got a month to accept and to set a deposit. Scholarships, actually, we just changed this, excuse me. This should say 90th percentile because we've brought on a little bit more scholarship money, which is great because we want to be able to offer this to more. So if you score above the 90th percentile, you're eligible for financial aid. And then there's, I believe we've just about got this done. There's a financial aid application process as well for anyone applying for scholarships. And so these are all needs-based as well as scholastic. We're interviewing immediately for the full fee track. So we've been in the middle of that. We made some offers in October already. So we've got a few people locked in who already know what they're doing this summer, which is great for them. Scholarship track will be starting interviews in November, and we're going to make offers later for the scholarship track. A lot of reasons for this, but the biggest one is we're continuing to fundraise. We want to get our scholarship fund as large as possible, to be able to offer scholarships to as many students who need them as possible. But there are going to be limited spots here, whereas more or less the full fee track, we get 1,000 people, we'll run 1,000 next year, no problem. Not planning to get 1,000, but we're planning to get something more like 450. But we got 1,500 applications last year. I think it's going to be more like 15,000 this year, is what we're aiming for based on our marketing. This should say 1 month. Excuse me. I already mentioned this. 1 month, there'll be paperwork to sign, make a deposit. And that's how you join Futures Forward. So everyone who hasn't applied yet, even if you haven't taken a test, strongly encourage you to do so. If you've taken a test, like such as the SAT and you didn't get the scores you want, come apply. You can say, I haven't taken a test yet. We'll prompt you to take the Ravens Progressive Matrices and get you started. This is a good opportunity for us to answer questions. I've got a few questions in chat already. If anyone else wants to send questions in chat, I'll give you a minute before I start answering some of these. One good question. Are scholarships available for, sorry, I'm going to stop presenting so that people have the opportunity to ask me live if they want to. I'm just going to stop recording